my name is Robert Pembroke. I thought I'd talk to you today about a rather topical social history phenomena in Inala, the mystery of the derelict Inala Skating Rink, and speculation about it being a corpse sink, a place where bodies are being concealed, human bodies. Now, before I do that, I'll tell you how I came to that hypothesis myself. I was looking at a story about a Catholic school in Saskatchewan in Canada. Saskatchewan is a province in Canada that is fondly known of by the Indigenous peoples of Canada, dare I say it, the Canadian Indians. The Canadian Indians, I don't mean like Hindi Indians of India, I mean people of Canada who are Indigenous peoples, yeah? Okay, so I guess the Saskatchewan burial site, the unmarked graves, unregistered graveyard, yeah? Sounds a bit suspicious, and it is a lot of people. It's not, let me see, 751 unmarked graves, according to the BBC, that is the British Broadcasting Corporation, yeah? It is a lot of people, and it does sound suspicious for it to have gone on for so long, and dare I say it, I think there must be a code of silence within some type of social networking occurring in relation to the Catholic school where this took place. Now, although I think it's suspicious, it doesn't mean to say that it is, because there are a lot of unmarked graves in the world. For example, you know Hyde Park in Sydney? I think it's called Hyde Park, isn't it? Yeah, just near Oxford Street, the gay quarter. There are actually unmarked graves there that nobody knows about. Oh, they know they're there, but they're not registered. They don't know who they are, that sort of thing. And Hyde Park in London, that also has unmarked graves in it. That's why it's called Hyde Park, because it's believed that the people who are buried in these places, had a lot of hide to do something they did, so they killed them and buried them in the ground, and nothing more was said, yeah? In fact, I think Hyde Park may have been the inspiration for the strange story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. A lot of people ascribe it to the Faculty of Medicine, that story, because it is kind of centred around that, and I think Mr. Stevenson himself did so too. However, the whole idea of Hyde was that the person or persons were so deplorable in their manner that there was no choice but to kill them and bury them, and the greatest insult you can give to another human being is to bury them in an unmarked grave. It's like saying you never existed or something. So that's kind of what happened at the Hyde Park. So there's a history of it happening, and as I said to you, there were 751 unmarked graves, or are, in Saskatchewan right now. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing, yeah? Because there is, even though that sounds bad, doesn't it? But there are other graves too around our own country, and they exist, but they're not registered, yeah? And they're actually, they're kind of there. You can see they're there. They've got tombstones and whatnot, but they're not actually registered as a graveyard or something, yeah? So it's not always a bad thing, but that sounds pretty bad, doesn't it? There must be a code of silence there in Saskatchewan for that to happen. But I'm going to talk to you about the corpse sink hypotheses in relation to the Inala Skating Rink. What I'll be doing is I'll be talking to you about the mystery of the derelict Inala Skating Rink and the corpse sink hypotheses, and to that I'll be following up with material facts for the future inquiry that, as a matter of history, will surely take place. It's just been so long this has happened for. Now, the witness is me, Mr. Robert Pembroke, and the date is Thursday the 2nd of March 2023 AD, Alter Domini, The time is 5:59 a.m. Okay, so these are the facts as I know it in relation to my own life. I recall a Mr. John Botham. I do believe he was a former QPS police officer. Lived proximal to the Amart furniture store at Oxley. Mr. Botham was a manager at the store whom I worked for at that store in early 1980s, yeah? And as I said, the store is proximal to both Durack and Oxley and the Oxley Hotel, very famous hotel. Mr. Botham, whose name he shares with the famous cricketer, I think it's Ian Botham, isn't it? Yeah, he's a famous cricketer and on the English team. Mr. Botham, Mr. John Botham, the Amart manager, also lived close to where the now Premier of Queensland, the Honourable Miss Anastasia Palaszczuk, lives in Durack, so they're not far from each other. I know that, not because I know where they live exactly, but because Durack is a very small suburb. Okay, so they both live in the Queensland, indeed Brisbane suburb of Durack at one point in time. Now, I had been previously employed by the Amart furniture store at Oxley, which was owned primarily by an entrepreneur and investor by the name of Mr. John Van. They make lovely furniture, don't they, at Amart? Well, they don't make it, but they import it, don't they? It's quite nice. I bought some. It's quite lovely. I like the furniture. Now, sometime after I resigned from Amart, I think it was about a decade or so later, a story appeared on, I think it was either the Channel 7 news or the Channel 9 news or the Channel 10 news. They were the commercial news channels that people often watched. I watched it too. So there was a news story that suggested that Mr. John Botham received a French polished coffin, yeah? So he got this lovely French polished coffin. It mysteriously appeared, I think it was in his garage, according to the news story, and it just happened to be there, you know, and he wondered why the heck it was there. So the story went, yeah, as you would, you know, you'd say, what's this about? Yeah, why did I get that? But he didn't order it. He did, as far as I know, if you don't order it, you don't pay for it, do you? And the story, it appeared on the Brisbane television news program. So I'm only really telling you material facts that can be found by anybody, okay? But I found them. Okay, so what do you think would be meant by giving someone a coffin? You know, dropping it off at their house or something. What would one be saying? I guess if your house was a church, you'd be saying, oh, I guess, you know, there must be a funeral today. If it was a cemetery, you'd say, oh, you know, poor bugger, he's got to be buried or something, yeah? But if it's your own home and you're still alive, I guess you might think, oh, gee, someone might be trying to say something. It might be like a referent, a sign system. And coffins, they usually mean death, don't they? So there's an appropriate context for a coffin and one that's not appropriate, yeah? And that's kind of not appropriate. So it appears to be some sort of provocation to cause or something, a reference to the idea that someone may experience foul play or something, yeah? A bit like the Maltese Falcon, that was like that, wasn't it? It was like a sign of foul play, wasn't it? Yeah, so that was happening, and you have the Premier living close by, and you have this Inala Skating Rink proximal that's going derelict, it's falling into decay. It's hardly ever used, especially now. It's an absolute ruin now. And I suspect that this mysterious coffin delivery has something to do with that skating rink. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And I think it might be concealing criminal activity, the whole show, yeah, that's happening there. Because the coffin was French polished. They cost a lot of money, don't they? You don't just give someone a coffin for the heck of it, do you? That's a lot of money. The Inala Skating Rink, I think people think it's probably a corpse sink, that it's concealing the body, maybe under the concrete or something. And it may have done so for a long time. There may be more than one corpse there, a bit like Saskatchewan, yeah? And a code of silence prevents people from bearing witness to the matter. That skating ring, it's a really expensive piece of land. There's no two ways about it. Whoever owns that land has got an absolute mozza. It's worth a lot of money. So why didn't they sell it years ago and remove the eyesore? They could have come in with a bulldozer, knocked the thing down and put up some lovely houses or other buildings or something if they were keen about it. Now I say that because the building, it could have been sold a long time ago and made quite a substantial profit. But now it's likely an investment showpiece for a lawyer. A lawyer probably has to administer the place, and he's getting the investment potential into his bank account. So one has to ask oneself, well, where's the owner? What's the owner doing? You don't just give money away, do you? What's this all about? Just had an editing mark to continue. It's Thursday the 2nd of March 2023 AD. The time is 6:44 AM. The witness is Mister Robert Pembroke. Okay, so what we had was a situation in Inala where there was a skating ring. It's worth a lot of money. As far as I can see, whoever's administering it is the only one who's making any money out of it. I think everyone else would be losing, so the person who owns it is either living or deceased. Either they're living and they don't really care, or they're deceased and nobody knows where the heck the will is or something, yeah? Because that can happen. It could also be that the person's deceased because someone killed them and buried them under the concrete. That can happen too. In fact, I reckon you'd find with a corpse sink, that's what happens. So you'll find that at some point the person, probably in Saskatchewan, probably a number of people who went along with it, at some point incrementally over the course of time, they themselves were murdered or killed or something in retaliation for something or other. Because it sounds rather sordid, doesn't it, the whole thing, this code of silence they've all embarked on. And I think that's the case with the Inala Skating Ring as well, because those corpse sinks, I'd say they'd be really cutthroat stuff. Yeah, they'd be dog eat dog. It'd be a lot of begetting, wouldn't it? Yeah, so it's been, as I said, it's been 30 years plus since Churka, since any activity of any significance has occurred. It's a home for vagrants, drug addicts, whatever, homeless people, yeah. It's labelled everywhere with graffiti. It's a rather unkept place. It used to be a swimming pool. It used to have a skating ring. My mother used to work there. She was the ticket collector. Yeah? I got to go there every day of the week during school holidays. I got to skate every day for free because she worked there. That was my life. That was my school holidays. So I look at it now and I think, oh, that's a pity, isn't it? You know, and obviously, you know, some people, they don't really care about the feelings of other people in the community, do they? They're not really part of our community, are they? And as I said, the main material facts are there have been threats against people figuratively, symbolically, in the nature of a coffin as a trope of death in one Mr. John Botham, manager of Amart Furniture Store at one time. Number two, there was just a failure to dispose of the property, the assets of the owner of that skating ring properly. And another point is that there is a relationship to that sort of behaviour and those corpse sinks that occur elsewhere in the world, such as the one in Saskatchewan that is quite monumental in size. It's hard to believe that nobody knew. I think everybody knew, just like they kind of know about, say, the treatment of myself, you know, the people who are proximal to me, you know. Yes, so they know too, by the way, a lot of people know as well. And what I put to you is that I want to clear the air about this. I want to break the ice with people and give everyone an opportunity to say something. So there's a commentary box down below. You can be anonymous. You can call yourself Mickey Mouse. It really doesn't matter. Nobody's going to come after you. And if you find anything I've said distressing to you, which you may, there's no two ways about it, it's really serious stuff, eh? This isn't chocolate bullets, it isn't Ellen's Jelly Babies, yeah? I'm one of Ellen's Jelly Babies, it's definitely not that. Yeah, so if you feel concerned about it, why not contact Lifeline if you're feeling upset? They're very good. In the past, when I've had issues, I've contacted them. They're happy to try and help you if they can. Their advice is free. I think it's a toll-free phone number. I'll put the number up now for you. And if you have a serious crime to report, then if you don't feel safe reporting it on the phone, or you don't feel it's being adequately addressed, why not go into the Central Police Headquarters in Brisbane and make an appointment to see one of the employees there. They have different sections. I'll direct you to the correct section, and you can make a statement in relation to any matter you feel is important. If you have something you feel is very important and you need help and direction, why not go to the Central Courts in Brisbane and ask the clerk there, the law clerk. I'm pretty sure he's heard this one before. You can talk to him about it too. Anyway, thanks very much for your time. It is in fact 6:50 a.m. And it is in fact Thursday, the 2nd of March, isn't it? Oh, there we go, Thursday the 2nd of March 2023 AD, Auto Domini. Cheers, thanks very much, bye.
I've got a thing or two to say to you, like the Humpty Dumpty Doo.